And we know already that one of them is nonverbal. We know that. And that's what we said. What would handshake the nonverbal? They work in pairs. We have the nonverbal, and then we have the verbal. Excellent. Already, we have 2 of the 10. So nonverbal communication is a package of variables, but for today, we'll look at it as one, which looks at posture, hand gesturing, eye contact, tone of voice, the speed in which I speak, the emphasis I put on certain words, the intonation, the emotional association I create with the words that I say. Right? All of those, my dress code, my accent. I'm Israeli. If I had gotten up and said, hello, good evening, everyone. It's, I like good being here, and I wouldn't even have said who I am. That would have had an influence, correct? If you put the verbal and the nonverbal on scales again, which would be heavier? The verbal would be heavier. Raise your hand if you think the verbal would be heavier. Let's see what you think. You're 1, you're 2. How many think the nonverbal is heavier? Okay. The nonverbal, according to research today, is responsible for what percent do you think out of the 100? Yes, 93%. That's precise. However, if you do a good job of this and do nothing at this level, it's still going to be very difficult. There's nothing to take away from you. So we need to combine. The only problem is people spend way too much time on this, as it were, even though they're not necessarily doing it correctly. There's a whole model about how to build a message. But at the end of the day, they're not paying enough attention to this. Let me give you briefly an example. Raise your hand if in the last 6 weeks you've prepared for a presentation for a meeting with somebody. Good. Now, you're all diligent people, so you're prepared, right? You prepared? You didn't just show up and wing it, right? So let me guess how you prepared. You sat down and you built the messages that you wanted to speak of, and you decided what you're going to say first and what second. And then you said to yourself, when I get to the second point, I'm going to slow down my speech. And when I talk about this point, I will maintain direct eye contact with this person. And then as I move to the second thing, I will speed up while making the bodily gestures of openness. That's how you prepared, right? Something a lot. Just say yes. Nobody here knows anyway. Why not take the credit, right? We don't do it. We do not prepare properly for the nonverbal. And a lot of people think it's because, A, they overlook it, and B, people think you have to learn nonverbal communication, right? How many people think it's something you need to learn? What if I told you you already know it? You were born knowing it. What's my evidence for that? Yes. Exactly. What about children? When they ask, right? It's like, but mommy, right? Now, who taught that 4-year-old kid to do this? This little gesture is very powerful. Look at how many things that kid is doing. He's he's lowering his shoulders. He's doing this like the begging feeling. He's stomping his head while changing the intonation of his voice, extending the mommy. Why? That's like an artwork. Like actors couldn't learn how to do that. But a kid knows. A kid knows. However, we are taught not to behave that way. Right? How many people here can go to their bosses and say, but I need more budget? Right? You can't, it won't work. We are taught not to do it. And then the pendulum goes from one end completely to the other end, and we are completely confined to a verbal, rational-based approach to communication, which doesn't work. The fastest shortcut I can give you to effectively applying nonverbal communication without having to remember a lot of things by heart. Nonverbal communication is about attaching the correct emotional association to the rational message. So you have to ask yourself, when I present this slide, when I say this argument, what is the emotion I want the other person to feel when they hear me say it? And then what do you need to do? Feel it yourself. There is a natural tendency for people to reciprocate. If you walk around the street, this doesn't happen in New York City, but you smile at somebody, they will probably smile back to you. Okay? There is a concept of reciprocity between people. That's the idea that the Greek called pathos. You know, the 3 pillars of presentation by the Greek. Athos, who am I? To be trusted. pathos, the emotion the audience feels that I can inspire, and logos, the logic of what I say. The pathos is about the feeling. If you want your audience to feel something, you simply have to tap into that feeling yourself and get to feeling that way when you present the message. We have in our life a vast archive of events and experiences that we've gone through in our lifetime. There were events that made us sad, some made us angry, some made us laugh, some made us hopeful, some made us inspired. All you have to do is say, and you can do this once and it will become your repository. Make a file of different events in your life according to the emotion you remember they made you feel. And then all you have to do before you communicate, even if you're going to do it over the phone, go to that file, say, oh, I want them to feel inspired. Oh, I remember that guy inspired me. That woman inspired me. If it's a video on TED, watch the video. Then pick up the phone and make the call. That's it. That's the extent of the investment that's required from you.